Good morning, everyone. We're continuing here in the CHOFETZ CHAIM, and we're going once again through the 7 conditions of to'elis, of benefit that you have to be able to fulfill in order to say over these words of seeming Lashon Hara, and they will not be categorized and classified as Lashon Hara. Prada Shlishi, the 3rd condition. Shimhu Mishayah Shef Shashim Yizvakech Imay Bi'atzma. If Reuven surmises that if he goes and he gives rebuke to Shimon personally, it's going to be beneficial, which means that maybe Shimon's going to listen and change his evil ways. So then, says the CHOFETZ CHAIM, then obviously you have to go to Shimon first, speak about the matter with him before you go and you start disclosing it to other people. Wherever you can save Shimon's face and not have to go and make a public display about his misdeeds, because he'll do tshuva on his own, that's the proper approach. Prat HaRevi, the 4th condition, B'yoyse yizar al kol panim, you have to be very careful. Reuven must be very careful. Shekol HaSipur emes, everything that he's saying is 100% truthful and accurate. B'li tarov v'sheker, without mixing any falsehood in it all. V'shelo l'gazem ha'inyan yoyse mimashu, Reuven cannot exaggerate this subject or this matter, making it worse than it actually is. Meaning that what he should not admit any little detail of the story, knowing that if he says over this one little prat, this one little detail, it's going to be a tzad zchus, which means it will justify the actions of Shimon. You can't leave that out to make Shimon look bad. Even though the fact is that this one detail will not halachically justify Shimon's actions. Nevertheless, Reuven is not allowed to omit it. Because the listeners might hear some kind of justification in what Shimon did. And therefore, even though you're telling them what Shimon did wrong, once they hear this one little detail, maybe Shimon will not be so demeaned in their eyes. On the other hand, if Reuven neglects to mention this one little detail, that could help the listeners of the Lashon Hara have Shimon find favor in their eyes. Shimon then will be much more disparaged and put down in the eyes of the listeners. Therefore, it's a very big prohibition to leave out this one detail. Again, even though the detail perhaps is not going to cast a good light completely on Shimon, and he's still going to be held accountable for what he did. But if there's any way to lessen the blow of the way that people are going to look at Shimon, says the CHOFETZ CHAIM, you have an obligation to do such a thing. Klal hadavar, the main rule is, number 1, Reuven is not allowed to make the offense seem to be worse than it actually is. For if not, because if he does make Shimon look worse than he is, then he's saying over Lashon Hara, and he transgresses many of the prohibitions that we mentioned above. Ayin Sham, you'll take a look over there. So that is the third and the 4th, and the 5th condition, Prada Chamishi, when Reuven tells over these words of Lashon Hara, he has to have in mind that there's going to be a constructive result. That itself is what the main body of this heter, of this permissibility is riding on. Kesavnuhu b'sif Yud Gimel. We already wrote this in Sif Yud Gimel, and there you'll see in detail exactly what we're talking about. So therefore, says the CHOFETZ CHAIM, how important it is for him to make sure that when he's telling over the words, it has to be that he's telling it over l'shem to'elis, for the benefit, and not just spiteful, not to spread Lashon Hara, not to put him down and have other people look badly on Shimon, but rather there's a to'elis, there's a benefit that you want for Shimon. Perhaps he'll do tshuva, other people will be aware of being careful around him, so on and so forth. Have a wonderful day.